to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show with the three amigos. Hotman, Crowder, and Solana on FM radio. Them boys be sliding, so we riding and we ready to go. 100,000 watts full throttle, baby, ready to blow. We passing poker out to Jupiter, we got your attention. You can tune in anywhere, but listen at your discretion. To the legend, Mr. Hotman can't stop him, each of the deuce. My brother got his own hot burger at Tucker Deuce. Now my rush more of these sports, spitting the truth. It's Channing Crowder, greatest Dolphins who rock the 52. Solana one best of Miami, the voice of FIU. We reppin' to Miami, the Heat and the Panthers too. We reppin' for the Marlins, the Dolphins, that's how we do. We reppin' for the Crips, so it's always about the you. Hey Jimmy, please get a Pell on the phone and tell him that it's on. I finally got his name on the song. Can't do him wrong, cause it sounds so sweet. You spit the facts while I keep the crowd on their feet. Football season be the reason that I be bringing this heat. Georgia music representing 104.3. Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. I don't quite have the Chicago accent that Hoch has, and I don't nearly have the beautiful singing voice that Hoch has to welcome you in on the back end of Georgie Music's wonderful intro for this program. It's Josh Appel in today for Hoch, Crowder, and Solana. I do expect Crowder and Solana to be in at some point during the show today. Hoch will be back later this week on Friday. And in the meantime, after Hoch for 2 or 3 weeks, close to a month, was complaining about the vending machines here in the building not being filled with his Coke Zero, I went and I scouted out the vending machines earlier today before the show started. And I thought to myself, I love soda. I see soda in this vending machine. And I'm going to take it upon myself to drink every single Coke Zero in the vending machine before Hoch gets back on Friday. Jimmy, what do you think?
Good idea.
Will you help me?
No, that'll hurt my stomach.
But well, I think it would be worth the stomach pain. Take some Tums, maybe some Pepto, just for Hoch to come back thinking that he's got his beloved Coke Zero ready to go, but it's going to be all gone because you and I drank it.
Or just maybe take some home.
Oh, that's actually also a good idea. Could just buy it all out.
Exactly.
I think that's a better idea, actually. The soda intake, I probably have to cut back a little bit. But, yeah, let's keep workshopping this, and then we'll come to a decision, and we'll go with that. Busy show today. Mike Cugno from CBS 4 will join us at 2:25. Oronde Gadsden will join us at 3:25. And George Richards talks some Florida Panther hockey at 4:25. Great win last night for the Panthers. Great win last night for the Miami Heat. Now, if you didn't watch either game, the Panthers, they won 8-5 over the Canucks last night. They had 16 players get on the score sheet with a point, including Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, you may think that if you took the point prop for basically anybody on the roster, you were happy last night. Well, let me tell you, listeners, Jimmy, anyone who can hear my voice right now, I managed to wager on one of the only players in the lineup last night to not pick up a point, Mackie Samoskevich. And it wasn't for lack of opportunities for Mackie last night. He got robbed on a highlight reel save by the no-name goalie that played for the Canucks last night. He had 2 chances at an empty net late, and Mackie's been great this season. But if that doesn't give you an idea of how my wagers have been going lately, I don't know what does. Again, 16 players got on the score sheet last night, including the Panthers goaltender, Sergei Bobrovsky. Mackie Samoskevich played on the first line with Anton Lundell and Brad Marchand. Did not have a point last night. And so I took the L. Very unfortunate. What's not unfortunate is how the Panthers ended up winning that game. And the Miami Heat, big win over the Knicks, although they tried to cough it up late. What was it, a 10-3 run in the last 3 minutes? Or 11-3 run? The Heat were up 10. The Knicks had a couple of chances to tie it or take the lead. Thought they might have tied it on a goaltend that was later overturned. But we saw what Landry Shamet did to the Heat a couple of games ago, dropped 1 billion points. So what did I do? All right, Landry Shamet, over 12.5. Easy. Finish with 10. I can't buy a win right now. Terrible. Sports Talk on WQAM is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday, all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. I know yesterday, Hoch, Crowder, and Solana, they talked about obviously the fourth down decision from McDaniel in the Commanders game. They talked about just the idea of the Dolphins continuing to win games with a very favorable schedule coming up. I want to get to those two topics today. I want to get to Notre Dame and Miami and the college football playoff. We've got CFP rankings coming later today, and I want to talk about that at some point because we are heading for an incredible debate about which of those two teams, if it comes down to it, should be in the college football playoff. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this Shedeur Sanders fiasco from Sunday and all the noise around it. And I also want to talk about just the Dolphins in general moving forward. I want to talk about Jamar Chase and him spitting in Jalen Ramsey's face. Why are we still spitting in people's faces, Jimmy?
I don't know. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. And then he lied about it, and it was caught on video. He suspended a game. Ridiculous. I don't understand when people started to think it was okay. Again, in the year 2025, we went through this with Luis Suarez about a month or two ago and Inter Miami. And now Jamar Chase is suspended for a game. Hey, some of us have Jamar Chase in important fantasy matchups down the stretch. Jimmy and I both have him. He's one of the best receivers in the league this year. I mean, honestly, keep the spit in your mouth. Ridiculous. All right, so no Solana today, no Crowder, at least for the moment. Either one of them should be joining us at some point, which means I get to throw it to myself to do headlines here in the 2 o'clock hour before Mike Cunio joins us later in the 2 o'clock hour. Our headlines are sponsored by Doral Hyundai, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Hyundai or DoralHyundai.com. Mentioned the Panthers won 8-5 last night over the Canucks, a franchise record. 16 players picked up points, including Sergei Bobrovsky, who also moved past Jacques Plante. Jacques Plante for 9th all-time in goaltender wins in NHL history. In a game, by the way, Jimmy, where the Panthers only gave up 15 shots on goal, and Bob let 5 past him.
That was a crazy game.
Yeah, the Panthers fell down 2-0, rallied back, made it 5-2. Then the Canucks stormed all the way back, made it 5-5. And the Panthers rattled off a few more unanswered after that. Brad Marchand, I want to talk to George Richards about the season that the 37-year-old Marchand is having. Where in the world would the Panthers be at the start of this season without Brad Marchand? Seth Jones scored twice, but Marchand a goal and an assist. He's up to 13 goals and 10 assists to lead the team this year, tied for second in the league in goals scored. He is having an unbelievable start to the season. How about the Heat? Mentioned earlier, they moved the 2-1 against the Knicks after a 115-113 win last night. The Heat held off the late 11-3 run by New York, had a couple of chances to tie it at the end. 7 players in double figures for the Heat. Fontecchio, how about it? Give me a little hand motion, Jimmy. A little Simone Fontecchio. 4 of 7 from 3. Khalil Ware, a double-double. The Heat are now 6-1 at home. A lot of disappointed New Yorkers leaving the arena last night. How about this? LeBron James, Steph Curry. Kind of knew this was going to happen, but they all but confirmed it on the Mind the Game podcast yesterday. Both will not be suiting up for Team USA at the 2028 Olympics. LeBron James will be 43. I can't believe that. Reading this sentence blew my mind. LeBron will be 43 during the 28 Olympics. Steph Curry will have just turned 40. And he didn't slam the door shut quite like LeBron did, but Curry said that his participation is unlikely. He said he'll still have the choice and the physical option where he could impact the team. Never say never, but twice said he highly doubts that he will participate in the 2028 Olympics. The Dolphins, they're on a well-earned bye this week. And guess what, Jimmy? They're back in the hunt.
Yeah.
They are back in the hunt. I mean, who doesn't love being in the hunt graphic in mid to late November? The Dolphins live in the hunt graphic in mid to late November. And Jimmy,
You know who's also in the hunt?
who?
The Chiefs.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we'll get to this at some point today as well. But the Chiefs are 5-5, and they've lost some really important games where now they don't have a tiebreaker that they would need if it came down to it. They've got the Colts this weekend. They're favored against Indianapolis, but I'm obviously not going to doubt Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But man, they might not make the playoffs. Like if they lose to Indy this week, could be a wrap on this season for Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, but obviously a long way to go and a lot to play out. The Dolphins, though, they have the Saints and the Jets coming up after the bye, which means your Miami Dolphins could be 6-7 heading into a Monday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't think many people expected that after the 1-7 start. Some disappointing news, though. I know the guys got to it yesterday. Juju Brents, he will miss the rest of the regular season, suffering an injury in Madrid. Really unfortunate because he was a pretty solid midseason pickup by Chris Greer, and he will no longer be able to play this season due to a season-ending injury. All right, your weather sponsored by Chill Zone AC, featuring reliable Root AC systems. Make your AC great again. Visit chillzoneac.com. It is in the mid to low 80s, partly cloudy skies, beautiful weather out here in South Florida. So, Mike Cunio from CBS 4, WFOR, he'll join us next. More Hochman, Crowder, and Solana show coming up. It's Appel in for the guys right here on 104.3 FM WQAM, Miami's sports leader.
This is Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
Got a horse running at Saratoga? Give me anything. You got a lottery ticket? You got some numbers? What do you got?
WQAM broadcast.
Wow. Back on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Appel in for Hoch and Solana. I was in for all three of them in the first segment. But if you're watching on YouTube, CC, Channing Crowder is here. I don't know if he can hear me, though. It doesn't look like he can. But in the meantime, Mike Cunio will join us in just a moment. But first, college football fans, come see the College Football National Championship Trophy presented by Dr. Pepper when it makes a special stop tomorrow at the Publix at 5950 Coral Ridge Drive in Coral Springs. Join Hollywood from the Joe Rose Show from noon to 2 p.m. to take a picture with the trophy. Fans of all ages are invited. Share in the excitement and pride of college football for this special, limited appearance. Mike Cunio of CBS 4 joins us now on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Shop over 2,000 Toyotas on sale at one location, Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan, or toyotaofhollywood.com. Cunio, welcome back. How was Madrid?
Thank you.
Hello?
It was excuse me, it was rainy and cold for most of the trip. But it was certainly a great experience. A lot of fans from all over the place, from all over the world in South Florida. It was really cool to see that many people make that kind of effort to get out to watch a Dolphin game.
Did you eat all of your dinners after 9:30 p.m.?
The days I actually ate dinner because we were working so much, everything was so late. The late night culture there is for real. They don't that city doesn't get like cranking until like the afternoon, like right around like at late afternoon, like maybe like 5 o'clock. That's when things kind of start to really start buzzing.
Does it surprise you when you go to these international games to cover the Dolphins just how many Dolphins fans there are across the pond, not just ones that made the trip from the U.S. or from South Florida, but it always strikes me that the Miami Dolphins, and I guess it's just because Miami is this international city, but it always strikes me seeing the amount of folks wearing Dolphins jerseys and Dolphins apparel at these international games.
It does. It's sort of like, you know how a lot of people from, I don't know, let's call it the state of Florida, maybe growing up grew up as Braves fans because of, was it TBS or TNT, whatever. Those are the only games that were basically shown sort of nationally or regionally. Whenever you talk to somebody over in Europe or Spain about why they became a Dolphins fan, there was two recurring themes or answers. One was Dan Marino. So obviously you had this huge kind of star who was also in movies, Ace Ventura. So his kind of brand and the way he played popped off the screen. The other one was a lot of people became fans during the 80s. Obviously the Dolphins were still good, but it was the mystique of like the Orange Bowl and the palm trees and the way like South Florida looked. Of course you had Miami Vice, and that was just all these things kind of wrapped up in one. So if you're watching American football and you see a lot of things you might see on a TV show or movie as the backdrop for a football game, I think that kind of captured a lot of people's imaginations back then, and that's how they ended up being Dolphin fans.
Were you able to make your way to a McDonald's there to have a McRib?
I saw a McDonald's, and every time I walked by it, I thought about doing it, and I was like, absolutely do not put this on some sort of paper trail that you actually went to McDonald's. And no offense to McDonald's, but went to McDonald's while in Madrid.
Well, I have a feeling that the McRib, the actual meat they use in Spain, might be of better quality than whatever the hell they make it with here.
I'm curious, you know what? I should have looked at the menu to see if they even did a McRib over there. Is a McRib like an international thing? Because I know in different countries they kind of have different menus.
I feel like it should be.
Right? You think that spans the globe, huh?
I don't know. I don't see how it doesn't. And I say that as somebody who thinks that it is the most foul thing on the menu besides the Filet-O-Fish.
Never tried the Filet-O-Fish and not a big fan of the McRib, and I'm glad it's only a seasonal thing and it's not around all the time.
Let's talk now about what happened on the field in Madrid. The Dolphins, they do get a win, but it was really ugly. And we had talked up into the lead up to the game about how the Commanders had lost 4 straight games by 20 or more points. They were depleted in the secondary, depleted on offense. They're missing Deron Payne from a suspension. What were your takeaways from the game? A win is better than a loss, obviously, but it was not the prettiest of performances.
No, it was like everything between the 20s, you kind of liked for the Dolphins, at least offensively. They were able to run outside. They were able to move the ball. For sure, it was just once they got into the red zone, things got clogged up until, I think, until overtime. They were 1 for 4 in the red zone, something like that. And then 2 of those were stops at the goal line. That can't happen against a team that's banged up and has that many missing pieces defensively. You have to win those individual battles and battles as a team to kind of punch it in. But I mean, it's not like anything's come easy to the Dolphins this year anyway. So I guess that kind of a little expected that it might be a grind. You just wish that, hey, you did everything right sort of between the 20s. It was just finishing drives that needed to happen. And you know what? If it happens against an opponent like Washington that is having a down year, as opposed to last year where they make the NFC title game, you still come out there with a win. Maybe you just feel good about the fact that you were still able to overcome some of your own issues and still get the W. And then you kind of reassess and move forward and see if you can figure out the rest of the way, if you can correct those mistakes. Defensively, there was just a couple like miscues. I don't understand how they kept running the same screen to Debo. Like they ran at the end of the half. They ran at the end of the half, and then they ran it on, I believe it was the to set up the field goal, and then they ran it for the touchdown. So obviously they, that look the Commanders really liked. I just wish the Dolphins would have maybe picked up on it a little sooner.
Real quick, a texter writes in that they went to Spain in July and had a double McRib with egg, lettuce, and tomato, and they said it was amazing. And so it's apparently available year-round in Spain. So you really missed out.
And a breakfast item, with egg,
right?
Oh, see,
there's your protein.
See, where has this been? See, imagine if this was around here. Hoch would be forcing us to go eat the McRib every day, not just asking. It would be a prerequisite for coming on the show.
It would be all 3 meals: breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
The one of the other popular conversations coming out of Dolphins and Commanders, Cunyo, the decision late by Mike McDaniel to go for it on 4th and 1 with less than 2 minutes left. Now, we can talk about how Devon Achane should have stayed in bounds when he got the team even into goal to go in that set of downs, because that would have burned at least another 40-plus seconds off the clock, if not more, and they could have just run it out and then kicked the field goal. But he went out of bounds, so that it played out the way it did. What did you think of McDaniel's decision to go for it there on 4th and goal?
I like the decision. I think it was the right call, and I had this debate with Bo Camper as it's happening. I was like, no, this is the right way to do it. And I think this is only the beginning. And this is the first time where I think this kind of call kind of made headlines, because I don't think any teams have been kind of saddled with making this decision. That
the Commanders did it too, by the way.
Year.
The Commanders did it right before this.
Right. And so to me, I was like, man, who was it? Was it Greg Olson brought this up at some point, where teams were going to have to start thinking about this? Do you trade the field goals? If you kick a field goal and then you kick off, the team only needs 2 first downs before they can attempt a field goal. Do you trade the field goals, or you play the field position game and try to pin teams deep now and make them try to go the length of the field? And to me, this was just one of those examples, and where I agreed with it. It's either you get stopped at the 1, and now the Commanders have to go about 60, 65 yards to win, or you kick the field goal and all they have to do is go 30, 35 yards to tie it. I was okay with the decision. I know, Mike's been criticized a lot for things this year, but I think this is one where had it blown up and the Dolphins lost, and they almost did, I still think it was the right call to make.
I respectfully, of course, disagree.
Yeah.
For me, I understand the analytics there, but is a 3.5% chance worth the possibility that the defense that you supposedly trust gives up the yardage necessary and Matt Gay makes that field goal and they lose? Is that 3.5% worth it? Because I'm pretty sure the number was, if they didn't get it, then their percentage chance of win was less than 20%. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the number I saw. And if you trust the defense to get a stop, if you don't get it, why, by that same token, wouldn't you trust them to get a stop on an ensuing kickoff? I know everybody's talking about how the new kickoff rule changes the math, and it does to a degree, but you can get creative with those kickoffs, put it in the landing zone. And I know the coverage team has been a little bit spotty at times this season, but if you're going to trust your defense in one spot, I don't see why you wouldn't trust your defense in the other as well, because worst case scenario, Washington comes down and kicks a field goal and you go to overtime anyways.
Right. I don't even think it's the defense aspect of it. I think it's the Commanders who had a uncharacteristically bad day special teams wise. They're a good special teams unit.
They released their kicker.
Did they end up releasing that? Yeah. So they had this year at least been good in that area. I think that plays a factor in it. And you mentioned if the Dolphins cover team hasn't been great, then it's even fewer yards where they go get it. I just think you get the touchdown there, great. You probably go on and win, or otherwise you basically got to make them go between 60, 70 yards to get the win. And it helped. You trust your defense enough to make sure you got that stop, and they kept them within a big enough distance that Matt Gay wasn't going to make that field goal.
Mike Cunio, CBS 4, joins us here on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Cunio, the Dolphins have a very favorable schedule coming up.
Mm-hmm.
The team has a chance to be back right in the thick of things. I would consider them, quote unquote, in the hunt. They should be in the graphic right now. They've got New Orleans, the Jets, before they head into the Pittsburgh Steelers Monday night game, who may or may not be with Aaron Rodgers, who hurt his wrist on Sunday. Are you buying any of this right now, or is this more of a week-by-week thing with you and this team?
It's definitely week by week, but this is kind of setting up to what I had thought about this team coming into the year, where I looked at last season's result and said, okay, they won 7 games without Tua in the lineup the entire time, so they should still at least be, that would be the floor for this team. They could get, obviously, the 7 wins, but I think they could get beyond that, 8, 9, 10 wins. And so now that's kind of, I don't want to say it's coming to fruition, but it's definitely in play. It's not out of the question anymore. So I think this team is right where kind of predicted they would be. Just maybe the math and how they get there was different. But I wouldn't count them out. I mean, the AFC is kind of all over the place. It's a weird year where the Chiefs are like 3rd in their division. The AFC North, which you thought, okay, maybe they're going to get 2 teams in the playoffs, like the Bengals, the Ravens, Steelers might be good, but now they probably only get 1 team because the Ravens will probably end up catching everybody in that division, with everyone kind of, I don't call them mid, but yeah, kind of frustratingly mid. Yeah. And so basically it's the AFC West and the AFC East are going to have multiple teams in. So will they make the playoffs? I'm still not, I'm not a believer yet, but will they be in the hunt graphic the rest of the way? Probably.
They're always in the hunt graphic. It's like when the Florida Panthers were 4 points out of the final playoff spot with 2 games in hand perennially until the Will Weedo era.
Right.
Cunio, last thing for you before I let you go. Where do you stand? We're going to college football now. Where do you stand on Miami and the college football playoff if the Hurricanes win out and it comes down to them and Notre Dame? Because it's setting up right now. We'll see the rankings later tonight, but the committee already has signaled they view Notre Dame in higher regard than they do the Miami Hurricanes. What do you think should – right, the head-to-head. I mean, what's the point?
So my problem with Notre Dame is this, is if they get in, let's say in a weird way, both Miami and Notre Dame get in. I still have a problem with Notre Dame being in it because they've lost to 2 playoff teams, Texas A&M and Miami. So why do we need to relitigate that on the field? The games have to matter. Who you play matters. Head-to-head have to matter. Otherwise, what's the point? We will stop scheduling these tough out-of-conference games, and let's just play 12 in-conference games if the math works out, if you have enough teams to do it. I know, Miami adding basically the entire West Coast to their conference can probably pull up, but what's the point of adding these kind of out-of-conference games that apparently mean nothing? So the win doesn't mean anything and a loss doesn't mean anything. Why even go through the charade? This is what takes what's so pure sports away. When you have committees that decide these things, they have to figure this out. If it comes down to Miami and Notre Dame in like the 10 to 12 range, Miami should absolutely get in over Notre Dame if the records are the same.
Quite frankly, I think they're both playoff teams. That's assuming Miami wins out. They could easily lose that game to Pitt, but we're talking about Alabama still. They've got a couple of losses now, one of them to Florida State, who Miami beat. There are teams in here. You got to root for Texas to lose, Oklahoma to lose, BYU, Utah, Vandy. Those are teams Miami has to jump. I don't understand, again, the differentiation between a Notre Dame or a Miami, and the SEC bias here drives me nuts because while Louisville and SMU are not playoff teams this year, they are still above average to good teams in the ACC. And the way Miami looked against them, obviously not great. I'm not excusing those losses, but the schedule that Notre Dame's playing is an absolute joke. And I think they are good enough to be in the postseason. When it comes down to those two teams, I'm with you. The head-to-head has to matter, or else what's the point?
Right. Resumes need to be at the forefront as opposed to where you started at the beginning of the year. This was the problem with the BCS. I think it was Auburn went undefeated, went 1 year or one loss, but because they started so far back in the rankings, they could never kind of catch up to the top two in the field, and they missed out on a national championship opportunity. This is the problem with the preseason rankings, and this is going to open a whole can of worms. But the committee decision making is flawed in this area, and even the 12 teams itself, that number is flawed because you get into this. Well, we need to have automatic bids, or the no automatic bids, or the group of five gets one in. It needs to expand. I think 16 is probably the perfect number, but the preseason rankings should not have an effect on where you are at this point. It's got to be all resume based.
Well, really, none of this matters. College football doesn't matter after USF lost to Navy, and now they're out of contention for the college football playoff. So what's the point of the college football playoff? What's the point of college football? What's the point of life?
I don't know. Sunshine?
I don't know. That's not doing it for me. I'm pretty depressed after Saturday. Mike Cunio, CBS 4, always appreciate your time. Glad you're back here in the U.S. after some long travel to and from Madrid.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you. More Hochman, Crowder, and Solana coming up next.
This is Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
You're not going to learn anything about sports on this show. I'm sorry. You're not. But I know McDonald's.
Today's topics are sponsored
That's what I was at. Well, I couldn't do it from the text.
Appel in for Hochman and
Yeah,
Solana
we have
today.
autofill.
Crowder is in Vegas right now, and he's on the StreamYard. Don't know if he can hear us. I'm going to venture to guess that it's a no, that he can't hear us at the moment. But I want to get to some Mike McDaniel sound here, Jimmy, in this segment. It's a quick segment, but I know we've talked about all season long and in the offseason about how, at the very least, the Dolphins can rely on their front seven on defense. And boy, were we wrong for about the first 8 weeks. But the Dolphins defense has turned it around a bit over this recent, if you want to call it a hot stretch, that they've been on. And we're seeing young guys like Kenneth Grant, like Zeke Biggers, and like Jordan Phillips start to develop more into quality players. And Mike McDaniel yesterday spoke about that.
You can just look as far as some of the production that T-Dot and, in particular, Jordan Brooks had last game. You have 20 tackles. That's a result of a lot of things him, but also a lot of things from his teammates, particularly those rookie defensive linemen. So that we've been counting on that growth, and we're experiencing some of the fruits of that in these past 2 wins.
Yeah, Jordan Brooks, 20 tackles, ridiculous tackling machine that he is. And I feel like defensive line isn't exactly a sexy position. It's hard to quantify whether or not players are playing well, especially young ones. I mean, Kenneth Grant had 1 tackle. Jordan Phillips, 1 tackle. It was a tackle for loss. Zeke Biggers, he got into the action with 7 tackles, but nothing really jumps out on the page from a young defensive lineman or a defensive lineman in general unless they're getting to the quarterback or taking a guy down in the backfield. So it's tough to quantify, are they really developing? Are they not? And for a while, Kenneth Grant, his career did not get off to a great start. But as you'll hear from Mike McDaniel in a second, he's become super impressed with these guys. And I know we're in this instant gratification era where every guy that the Dolphins pick or every guy that any team picks, we want to see them contribute right away and make big plays and make an impact. But
How you
sometimes
doing?
development,
Good to
it
see
takes
you.
time. And Mike McDaniel alluded to that.
The rookie D-line class had a bigger game this week.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it was cool to. I think the team has really.
Yeah, not a bad place to be.
We knew what we signed up for.
Yeah.
And the residual belief is because the individuals have given us that. I think it's been really cool to watch both 94 and 90 really grow, and then to have Zeke come out and get some playing time, the game previous, and then really get some meaningful snaps this week. It was a big deal. It's something that we've been counting on all season.
Jimmy, I hate to say it, but I think I'm buying it. I think I'm buying this team being in the hunt. The false hope is here, and I am buying it until they lose to Tyler Shuck and the Saints, who, by the way, I have this weekend in maybe the most depressing matchup of the season in New Orleans, the Saints and the Falcons. That's my game on Sports USA this weekend. The Dolphins have the Saints, of course, coming up. They already throttled the Falcons during Atlanta's 5-game losing streak. But I really do think that there's something to look forward to with these young defensive linemen for the Dolphins. And who would have thought? It takes reps and it takes plays and games for you to see the fruits of the labor and the development really show. All right, that'll do it for the 2 o'clock hour here on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Hopefully we'll get things figured out with Crowder from Vegas for the 3 o'clock hour. Oronde Gadsden will join us at 3:20, and then we'll talk with George Richards at 4:20 in the 4 o'clock hour. All right, more Hochman, Crowder, and Solana coming up next on FM 104.3 WQAM.
And Solana.
I'm just saying that I'm Hoch. We talk Tua. Hoch Tua.
3 o'clock hour on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Appel in for Hoch and Solana today. Jimmy in the studio as well. We're still trying to get things right with Crowder, who's out in Vegas. I see him on our feed, but I don't know if he can hear us. This is our third time, so hopefully the third time is the charm. If not, we'll get it figured out at some point. Solana will also make an appearance on the program today at some point as well. We've got Oronde Gadsden joining us in the next segment. George Richards of Florida Hockey Now will join us as well in the 4 o'clock hour. But we're going to do 15 minutes of Game Day Uncensored here, brought to you by the Lexus December to Remember sales event. Get offers on select models for a limited time. Learn more at Lexus.com. So I was listening to the show yesterday, and the guys were talking about whether or not it's advantageous for the Dolphins to keep winning the way they are or do another tank and get a higher draft pick. And Barry Jackson was adamant about this on his Twitter account. He wrote a column about it as well. And I've gone back and forth on this. I think it's a legitimate point that there isn't an Andrew Luck, there isn't a Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels type quarterback in this draft that you know is a surefire thing. You know, Fernando Mendoza, he might turn out to be good. Ty Simpson, maybe. Dante Moore, I mean, those are the three guys that'll likely go first as far as quarterbacks in the next draft. But Barry Jackson's point, which is, why would anyone assume that the Dolphins would pick the right executive and coach to turn this into a Super Bowl contender? They've never done this under this ownership. I don't really buy that as a reason to not go for it again or tank again. I really don't. You can't base what might happen in the future off of the failures of everything that's come before. You just can't. Like, did the Buffalo Bills think that they were ever going to get to this point with Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott? Did the Detroit Lions fans think they were going to be mired in failure for the rest of time before Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were hired by the Lions? The Commanders, I know they're having a down year, but Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels, like, I don't buy that just because they haven't hit on hires previously that means they're going to fail again in the future. I don't think that's a reason to dismiss the point that, hey, maybe winning these games that will likely turn out to be meaningless wins, you know, will not hurt the franchise. I agree to enjoy the wins when they come. Winning is really difficult in the NFL, as we have certainly seen for a long time. But I don't buy the point that just because the Dolphins haven't hit on their hires previously, that they will continue to whiff and fail. Because we've seen plenty of teams and franchises in the league have that same type of history. And then all it takes is one. Now, granted, what's come with all those hires? They find a quarterback. Brett Veach and Andy Reid ditched Alex Smith and found Patrick Mahomes. Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, they found Josh Allen. The Commanders, Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels. The Bears, Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. Obviously, it's predicated on whether or not the Dolphins are able to find that quarterback. That's the most important thing. But I don't think that it should deter you from wholesale changes just because they haven't hit on previous hires. Somebody in the chat asks, well, nobody you mentioned won any Super Bowls. What did they find? Well, they found themselves being contenders every year now. They're perennial playoff teams. Injuries wrecked the Commanders' season this year, but we know Jaden Daniels to be a good player. We know Terry McLaurin's a good player. He's been out for a while. Their entire secondary is hurt. This is a lost season for the Commanders. I understand that being bad doesn't mean you're going to hit on the picks. I know we've seen that in the past. But the Dolphins are telling you, I mean, there were 2 under-the-radar dismissals by Stephen Ross over the last few weeks from the scouting department to guys that had been there for 20 plus years. Chris Greer obviously been there for 20 plus years. This feels like they're heading towards wholesale changes. I don't think that just because they haven't hit on hires in the past, that a full-on rebuild isn't the answer. Because now you just accept the mediocrity because previous hires didn't work out. Just accept that they're going to go 7-10, 8-9, 9-8, and perennially be in the hunt. I don't buy that. I think to dismiss it is a little odd. And I understand that this franchise has beaten this fan base time after time after time. And it's become somewhat filled with apathy towards the Miami Dolphins. Barry says, when your team hasn't won a playoff game in 25 years, you can't think in terms of blowing it up to build a Super Bowl contender. You need to take solace in smaller things, such as single wins, and remaining on the fringes of wildcard contention, even as sad as that may sound. Well, why? Why can't you think in terms of that? You can't. I've seen people argue over the years that you should take a quarterback in the first round every year until you hit on one. I feel like that same thing applies here almost. Just because the last rebuild failed doesn't mean that you shouldn't try it again. I don't know what you build around from this team outside of Devon Achane, outside of Patrick Paul, outside of Jalen Waddle. Maybe this trio of defensive linemen that are coming along, some players you could build around on the defense. But the idea that this team is a soft rebuild away from being something, I don't know. It's what I said a couple of weeks ago. You can't half-ass this. You have to full-ass it. This team has half-assed these rebuilds for so long outside of 2019. Neither method has really worked for this franchise. And so again, just because it hasn't worked doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. Let's get to our headlines here in the 3 o'clock hour, sponsored by Doral Hyundai, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Hyundai or at DoralHyundai.com. The Dolphins, they're on a bye this week. They have the Saints and the Jets coming up after the bye. Could find themselves at 6-7 going into that Monday night Steeler game. I love this quote from Bradley Chubb. Basically said the team has taken on a delusional mindset. I love that. And we'll get to more of that later on. Juju Brents, unfortunately, he'll miss the rest of the season. He was looking like that was a nice find for the Dolphins defense, which has been absolutely depleted in the secondary. So that's unfortunate news for Miami. Maybe more Ethan Bonner, Solana's favorite player. The Panthers, they won 8-5 last night over the Canucks after a disappointing loss on Saturday to the Lightning. A franchise record 16 players picked up points, including Sergei Bobrovsky, who also moved past Jacques Plante for 9th most wins all time in a game where he stopped only 10 of 15 shots. The W, of course, and the 2 points, all that matters. Seth Jones scored twice. Brad Marchand continues his incredible start to the season. Goal and an assist for number 63. The 37-year-old is up to 13 goals, 10 assists on the season to lead the team. He's tied for second in the league in goals. Now, look, I was listening to Doug Plagans on with Tobin and Leroy before the show, before we started, and I heard Tobin. I heard him refer to it as Paul Ball. I love it. It tickled me. I got to tell you, Jimmy. Paul Ball, it's taken over.
It has.
Everybody knows about it. It's spreading.
It's caught on.
And you know me. I'm a Paul Ball lifer.
And NHL knows, but you know what? It doesn't make a difference.
No, it doesn't. The Heat, they moved the 2-1 against the Knicks this season after a 115-113 win last night. The Heat held off an 11-3 run late. They were up by 10 in the final minutes. The Knicks had a couple of chances at the end to tie or take the lead. In fact, it looked like at one point they did tie the game. The Heat got called for goaltending, but it was overturned after a review. 7 players in double figures for Miami. Fontecchio, 4 of 7 from 3. Khalil Ware, a double-double. Norm Powell, Storm and Norman. Do people call him that? I don't know.
Yeah, Storm and Norman.
Oh, very good. Storm and Norman. The Heat are 6-1 at home now at the Kaseya Center. All right, so we got Oronde Gadsden coming up in the next segment, former Dolphins wide receiver. I was in Jacksonville on Sunday. I called the Chargers and the Jaguars. Jimmy, I think it might be time to do Tua versus Herbert again. Whoa. Was that a bad game from Justin Herbert?
Yeah.
Whoa. He got benched for 81 yards, no touchdowns, and a horrific interception. Lost 35-6 to the Jaguars, who blew a 19-point fourth-quarter lead to Davis Mills the week before. Whoa! Is that a bad loss for the Chargers? I'm sure we'll get to that with Oronde Gadsden in the next segment. More Hawkwind. Oh, wait. Jimmy, I don't do headlines often. Forgot about the weather. Your weather, sponsored by Chill Zone AC, featuring reliable root AC systems. Make your AC great again. Visit chillzoneac.com. Partly cloudy skies. Temperatures in the low 80s. Beautiful day in South Florida. And yes, chat, I'm not actually serious about doing Tua versus Herbert again. We all know it's already settled. Tua's better. More Hochman, Crowder, and Solana coming up next.
This is Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
Is there any possibility that Billy the Marlin is a bird?
Today's topics are sponsored by Local Plumbers 519.
Yes, the Dolphins won, but questions remain if the Dolphins can continue to win and be on the edge of a wild card spot. Tua believes the Fins can keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I would say we're going to enjoy this win. We're going to get back in, to Miami. We're going to get back into the building. We're going to look at things that we need to clean up. We're going to have our meetings and whatnot, see and figure out how we can continue to keep the momentum going through the bye week.
The Canes also won this past weekend and moved up a notch to number 14 in the rankings. Mario Cristobal told Joe Rose things are moving forward as the season winds down.
We're always talking truths, man. We're on the verge of playing our best football, and we've done some great things, and we got to go take care of our business, and everything else will take care of itself.
The Canes travel to Blacksburg to play Virginia Tech Saturday. The Heat and Panthers played last night. We'll fill you in. Tuesday Talk on FM 104.3 WQAM. And you can also listen to WQAM on the Odyssey iHeartRadio and TuneIn app.
Today's topics are sponsored by Local Plumbers 519. Join a winning team of union-trained Local 519 plumbers and build a strong, lasting career. Learn more at plumbers519.com.
Y'all can get that Cadillac you've always wanted at Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac.
It is good producing, Jimmy. Oronde Gadsden will join us in just a moment. His son, of course, star tight end for the LA Chargers. That was my game this past weekend. And boy, was it a stinker for LA. Oronde Gadsden joins us now on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Shop over 2,000 Toyotas on sale at one location, Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan, toyotaofhollywood.com. OG, legendary Miami Dolphins wide receiver, Appel in for Hot, Crowder, and Solana. Oronde, as I was just saying, we were both in Jacksonville over the weekend. We failed miserably at trying to meet up after the game. I will take accountability for that one. But what the hell happened? And don't get yourself in trouble.
I'll tell you what's happening. The O-line, they just not, playing as they should. I think, I don't know. I want to say it's too many long distance, long East Coast trips. It's probably the fifth one. I think Chargers travel more than anybody in the league. So let's go with that. But it was a bad game. I mean, it didn't look. It looked kind of Park League. It looked kind of palish,
yeah,
to say the least. But sometimes it happens like that. I don't know. Could be looking ahead at the bye. I think there were some accounts that said if the Chargers won that game, they were 91% chance locked to make the playoffs. So that might have got into their head. I don't know, but they weren't ready to play. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it was surprising because you would think, as you pointed out, that a West Coast team coming to the East Coast for an early start, disadvantageous or whatever the word is. English is my job, but I don't know the word. Anyways, you would think that it would be a disadvantage for the Chargers, but under Jim Harbaugh, I think there was something like 5-2 coming to the East Coast, a +10 on average point differential. So it was a very uncharacteristic performance, and they were playing a Jaguars team that had their worst collapse in franchise history against Davis Mills the week before. And at the very least, even if the offense wasn't performing, the defense was shockingly inept on Sunday as well. They've been one of the best defenses in the league during that winning streak.
Styles make fights, and sometimes, we know sometimes you get the bear and sometimes the bear gets you. It's just, I think, the way some teams play don't fit our defense. Obviously it's a 10-game sample size at this point, 11-game sample size at this point. But, some offenses just click against it and some don't. At the end of the day, you got to get pressure on the quarterback. They were able to apply heavy pressure on our quarterback, and we didn't apply any on there. So that's usually what happens is, on the good days, you get Khalil Mack and all other defensive ends rushing real good, and then now you got to find out how to throw, where to throw in the zone, and it's pretty tough. But when you get time, you can pretty much find the holes. So it is what it is. We just take this bye week, get everybody healthy, and try to come back. Next game against the Raiders. We saw them last night against the Cowboys, and then they're going up against the fighting Shedeur Sanders this weekend. So
yeah,
see how it works out.
I was going to transition to the Dolphins, but since you brought up Shedeur Sanders, I haven't gotten to it on the show yet. The noise around him is so bizarre to me, as if it's some affront to the sport that the 5th round quarterback, who was 4th on the depth chart in training camp, didn't get any reps. And then finally, when he became the backup, they had another rookie who was higher on the totem pole or lower on the totem pole, whatever the way we look at totem poles is. The 3rd round pick, Dylan Gabriel, he's got to get all the reps. So this idea that the Browns are sabotaging Shedeur Sanders, it's so bizarre to me. And it made me think, the way that people are defending Shedeur Sanders, I know it's obviously on a scale because at least Tua Tagovailoa had performed at least and shown flashes. But is this what like Tuanon sounded like in defending Tua for so long? Because the stuff coming out around Shedeur Sanders after Sunday was so bizarre to me. He was terrible on Sunday night, and it was everybody else's fault but Shedeur Sanders. It was crazy.
Yeah, I know. Everybody wants a fair shake, and when you get it just doesn't happen that way. I mean, you're a starter, you get the first team reps. I mean, usually, you give on a scale or on a play sheet during the practice, you may have 10 plays. Starters, the one's gonna get 7. The 2s may get 3, or the 2s get 2 and the 3s get 1. Maybe, but usually, 7-on-7. Usually, the starter gets them all. So, I see, what everybody wants, and at least this week we'll be able to see, because he's going to get all the reps with the ones, right? And he's playing against a team that's equal his record. They're not like they playing the Denver defense, right? They got 50 sacks. They're playing the Raiders. So, I mean, the Raiders and the Browns kind of like apples and apples. I mean, you know what I mean? And there's nothing stellar about either one. So I think all the questions will be answered this week, and then we'll know one way or another, what the deal is. I just think everybody this is still from the draft hangover. Yeah. Why did he go so late? That's what the whole deal is. I don't think it's, I wouldn't even say, it's a racial deal. I think it's just,
I agree.
Everybody just thinks he should have went before the 5th round. And now that he's playing about to play, it was about, he didn't get the reps. But, nobody gets the reps. When they throw you in there, they throw you in there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Trey Lance came in for Justin Herbert.
That was something.
Right. He looked just as out of sorts. Not like he was like the 3rd pick in the draft, right? Or something like that. Like, he didn't get no first round reps. You know what I'm saying? He was running around for his life, throwing the ball, everywhere but loose anyway. So I'm just glad to see, hey, he's going to get the first round reps, and he's playing a, similar team. He's not playing anybody, like I said, now he's playing he's not against a vaulted defense where they're just going to blitz and sack him every time. So we'll see. The questions will be answered. I think he's going to do just like, a first game 12, game 11 starting quarterback would do when they just throw you in there. I don't think he's going to light it up, and I don't think he's going to lay a dud either. I think he's going to play decent. But to that point is, Kevin Stefanski or whoever calls the plays got to call some plays. They got to call some plays that he can handle. You know what I mean? You can't give him, 4-layered read on 3rd and 12. I mean, he's going to get sacked. You know what I mean? Like, let's, let the tight end block out the 2 and go to the flat, hit him on the flat, or hit, a dig, or, a comeback, something simple. If you expected him to, it didn't work for Joe Flacco. You know what I mean? He done went to Cincinnati and did decent. So you got to call a play. You got to know your personnel. So that's going to be, that's going to be the next hurdle if it doesn't work out.
Look, I hope that Shedeur proves me wrong. I don't see it. I think what we saw on Sunday was exactly why he fell to the 5th round. He doesn't have good pocket presence. The game moves really quickly for him, almost too fast, and I'm not confident in that arm strength. But you're right. I mean, he will have a full week of reps, and he will get a chance with all the ones for the first time, and maybe we will have a better way to evaluate him after this week. All right, let's talk about the Dolphins.
All right, let's do it.
They eked out a win in Madrid against a really depleted Washington Commanders team, but a win is a win, especially overseas. Crazy things happen there all the time. The Dolphins are 4-7, favorable schedule coming up. What did you make of the game and Mike McDaniel's decision to go for it there late?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what we should have been doing. We should have been playing like this the whole time. Obviously the Commanders didn't have, everybody should have, but everybody's hurt at this point. Everybody got some people down. You got to win the game. You're not gonna play. You're not gonna play Buffalo every week. You know what I mean? You're not gonna play. The Colts every week. So we did what we were supposed to do. Come back home. We're on a 2-game winning streak. So hopefully we can keep it going. Hey, win like 5-6 and see what happens. I mean, got a chance, got to beat the Patriots. You have to do that. You have to take care of what you got to take care of. But, I like the game plan. I like the way they played. Tua played a decent game, and Mike got to go for it at this point. What else you got to lose? You know what I mean? Like you're behind the 8 ball. Yeah, right. But you remember when? I guess when Flo was in that position and we were like 0-7 or whatever, and he won the next 7. Like,
this will be the third time that's happened. We did it. The Dolphins did it last year. They did it with Flo when Tua saved the season, that Baltimore game, the Thursday night, and it feels like it's happening again this year.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what the problem is, because I mean, when I played, those September and October games, man, we were so excited. We were excited for you to come down here. Like, I think, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure between September and October at home, we'd win, 87% of the game. So the late starts I don't get it. I'm kind of confused by it, but hey, that's how it works. That's how it works. But I don't know how much solace you get out of being out of contention and then just winning the last 7. I would kind of like the Chargers. I'm so happy that we won those first 7 games, and so I think it's a little better when you start out early. So I think that's what happened. We started out early in that game against Washington, and we went down the field. We ended up kicking the field goal. I think it was 3-0, and then once you get some points on the board, we know in this league you got to score 7. Like, same thing in the Chargers game. I hate to keep talking about it, but that's fresh on my mind. We got the interception on their side of the field. We kicked the field goal last night. The Raiders, it was 3-3. They got a fumble from Dak. You at the 30-yard line, and you kick a field goal. We're not gonna win like that. They got to score some touchdowns. So, I think you keep fighting. In the Dolphins' case, you got some good pieces. I don't know where the pieces are showing off to go somewhere else or stay here. Whatever the case may be, it always feels good to win a game in the NFL, and that's what's going to happen.
Last couple here for you. First, the spitting incident. Spitting is back again, apparently, somehow. Jamar Chase spit on Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey socked him in the helmet, got ejected from the game on Sunday. Jamar Chase lied about spitting in Ramsey's face. There was video evidence, and he's now suspended for a game. We know Crowder's story about getting spit on. I don't understand why we're resorting to that. Like, there is nothing more disrespectful than spitting in someone's face in any scenario. Did you ever have to deal with anything like that as a player? Did you come close to ever getting so mad at one of your opponents that you thought about it but held back? I can't understand what possesses someone to spit in the face of another man.
No, I don't think I've ever, even came close to it. But, that one, the odd thing to me is, seemed like it was he was a premeditated spitter, because it seems if you look at the video, it was like he drank some water and came off the sideline. It was so much.
Did the Triple H water bottle spit up into the...
Yeah. That's just not a spit. Like a spit is, but it was like he had it in his mouth, holding it until he got to him. Like, it was a lot. It was just odd. And for somebody his caliber to you can beat Ramsey one-on-one, no problem. Like, I don't understand why you got that upset or what made you do that. And then you lied about that. That's worse. Like, you already, you're sad. You're a sad dude for spitting. Now, you're a super sad dude for saying you didn't do it. Come on, there's cameras everywhere. They gonna see you, bro. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that. The only thing I really can remember, and the only one that comes to light every time this happens, is the Bill Romanowski one.
Yeah,
I think that was bad. That was like the first one. That was terrible. Like, that was That was a racial divide there. That was a locker room divide that day. Like, as good a player as Bill Romanowski was, you know what I mean? Like, that was, and you kind of felt it. Like, he ain't playing with a full deck of cards. But that day, you really knew, and it was bad. So every time it comes up, that always pops up in my mind, because that was my era, and that's what I played. And I was like, oh man, like. That's on site. Like, that's, y'all go ahead. I'll take the fine. I'm waiting for him to come out the locker room, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I got to see him. Like, this go beyond the football. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool. Everything gonna be all right. But I'm waiting for him. I'm gonna take whatever fine. I'll find my own flight back. I got to see Jamar Chase when he come out the locker room. He better have his people with him waiting at a home game. I don't know who's home game, but if I got anybody with me, we going looking for Jamar Chase. So this is how it is, and I think Mike Tomlin said it best. You got to do what comes natural at that point.
Well, Ramsey gave him a nice right hand of the helmet.
Yeah, they got a helmet. Got a helmet on. There would have been more. I probably would have just tackled him and just started wailing, like, you know what I mean? Like, the helmet hit is like, when Sam Brown got hit. Like, all right, good job, big dude.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah.
Last thing for you here. McRib. Hoch forced me to go meet him, Crowder, and Solana before our broadcast at the Panthers Arena last Thursday. I took a nibble of it, and I was out on it. I have a sneaking suspicion that Hoch doesn't actually like the McRib, is my take. I can't confirm that, but I think it's this Aperol Spritz thing, where he doesn't actually enjoy these things. He just does it for the bit. But maybe he does. I could be wrong. Are you tired? Are you tired of Hoch forcing you to eat the McRib?
No, I like the McRib.
What? You like the McRib?
I actually like it. I actually like. No, listen, I'm not gonna order 3 of them. You know what I mean? Like, but that one that day, man, the sauce and everything was. The bread is different bread. They don't have that on a regular basis. Like, I think it's in our mind. Like, listen, it's a hurdle to get over. It's a McRib without the rib. It's a hard hurdle, but I think the sauce with the pickles and the onions kind of help you get over it.
Yeah.
I think, not bad. Like, I think it's pretty good. I'm with Hoch on this one. Now, the za and all that, and the boneless wings, I'm not with. But
okay, well,
the
listen,
McRib, I'm good.
The boneless wing, the boneless wings are my thing, and I saw Stan Van Gundy and Ian Eagle on one of the Amazon Prime broadcasts. I think it was the Heat game where Stan Van Gundy was giving his take on the wings. He didn't bring up boneless wings, and I was pretty disappointed about that. OG, thanks so much for your time, as always. It was great.
Man.
It was great almost seeing you in Jacksonville this past weekend.
I mean, we texted back and forth. Where you at? Yeah, how you get down there? Where you at? It was good. We put forth. We got to eat for effort.
We tried.
You know what I mean?
We tried.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do. That's all you can do is try.
Oronde Gadsden, legendary Miami Dolphins wide receiver. Thanks as always for taking the time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Talk to you later.
Back with more Hochman, Crowder, and Solana after this.
Crowder and Solana.
What about FD Florida and FD Sun?
How about FU?
WQAM broadcasting live from the Edmore Sawgrass Auto Mall Studios. Shop exceptional Cadillac offers now at the 3-time Cadillac Dealer of the Year, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Visit EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. You're always backed by Morse.
Cheetah Pompano, great spot to watch a game or a fight. HD TVs throughout the club, VIP areas, 4 stages of entertainment, and the most beautiful ladies in South Florida. Cheetah Pompano has an amazing complimentary gourmet lunch till 3 p.m. every day. Happy hour specials till 6. That lunch at Cheetah Pompano is so good. It's a menu. They don't just throw a bunch of food out on a table. You order off a menu, and it is an extensive menu, and they have an excellent chef, and they make really good food. And then, of course, college, pro football, girls, and beer. What's better? Every Sunday and then Monday night, you can enjoy hundreds of beautiful, exotic referee and cheerleader adult entertainers at Cheetah Pompano Beach. Watch all the games live while you enjoy the coldest beer in town. Every day is a great day at Cheetah Pompano Beach. Make sure you visit Cheetah Palm Beach as well. Get details on the website cheetahsofl.com.
AM 560 Sports WQAM conducts contests from time to time, on air, online, and on site. You can find complete rules for all contests on our website, WQAM.com/rules.
Gear up and get ready, college football fans, to have the chance to get a close-up look at the College Football Playoff National Championship Trophy, presented by Dr. Pepper, when it makes a special stop in South Florida. The trophy will be on display at the Coral Springs Publix, 5950 Coral Ridge Drive. Join WQAM, Miami's sports leader, Wednesday, November 19th from noon to 2 p.m. Fans of all ages are invited to come and take photos with the trophy, sharing the excitement and pride of college football for this special limited experience.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed.
Slowing down in Miami-Dade, westbound of the Dolphin, 95 going back.
Welcome back to Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Appel in for all three. Jimmy is here as well. Maybe Crowder's best contribution in the history of the show today. Tried to get him on 3 times from Vegas. Unfortunately, unable to connect with him. But he will be on the program tomorrow, as will Solana. And Hoch will be back later this week. Jimmy, did you watch Monday Night Raw last night?
I did not, but I heard what happened.
Okay, so I don't bring this up to get into nerd wrestling talk, I promise. But Cam Scattaboo and Abdul Carter were at Monday Night Raw at MSG last night. And Cam Scattaboo is out for the season, recovering from surgery on a dislocated ankle. Abdul Carter is having a tough rookie season, has been late to meetings, slept through a walkthrough this week as well. And last night, they got into a quote-unquote physical altercation with a few wrestlers. And I was thinking, if you are the 2-win Giants and you are Cam Scattaboo and you are Abdul Carter, that is a really tough look for you to be getting physical there, especially Scattaboo, right? We know that wrestling is not, I'm not going to use the F word, but we know what it is. We suspend disbelief. We'll just put it that way. But that doesn't mean you can't get hurt. And there was a lot of physicality there for Mr. Scattaboo with Dominic Mysterio and the like yesterday. And I'm not saying that, like, guys aren't allowed to have interests outside and do things outside of the facility. I'm not someone that says, oh, turn off the video games and get in the playbook. Get off social media and get in the playbook. I'm not that type of guy. I'm really not. In fact, I think segments like that are usually fun. But I'm not sure you can be Abdul Carter and have the week that he's had and then stand in Madison Square Garden and hold up a Giants championship belt when you have 2 wins. Cam Scattaboo has definitely seen some of the criticism of him, and he tweeted this today. I'm going to read this verbatim, all right? A, honestly, if you don't like that I'm having a good time while dealing with a tough time, then just go ahead and unfollow and casually move on. I'm not able to play football and have the fun I've been having my whole life, so I'm doing things outside the box, trying to find stuff to keep me happy. Enjoy the rest of y'all's week, and just don't talk about me if you ain't got nothing nice to say. And then he did a salute, which I can only imagine is an homage to John Cena, who was on his final Monday Night Raw yesterday. It made me think about, like, if Tua and I don't know, Cole Strange or something ended up at a Monday Night Raw or a wrestling show and they were prominently featured physically the way that Scattaboo and Abdul Carter was last night, how that would go over here.
I have no idea. That would not end well.
Yeah, I don't think it would either. But I think that sometimes we're a little unfair to these guys when they do things outside of the facility and outside of football. I just think that the conversation around this specific instance and Cam Scattaboo being hurt, a pretty serious injury, and Abdul Carter having the week he had, sleeping through a walkthrough, being late to meetings, allegedly, all season long. I just think it's a difficult look for an organization that's going through a difficult time this season. All right, I could talk about Monday Night Raw for hours on end, but I'm not going to torture anybody with that. 4 o'clock hour is coming up. George Richards of Florida Hockey Now will join us at 4:25. We'll talk some Panthers hockey with him. I want to talk more about Shedeur Sanders, and I want to talk more about the college football playoff situation as it pertains to the Miami Hurricanes and Notre Dame. We'll do that in the 4 o'clock and the 5 o'clock hour. More Hochman, Crowder, and Solana coming up next.
This is Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
I used to spray paint raccoons and see if they come back in my yard after I catch them.
It's a great move.
4 o'clock hour on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Appel in today for Hoch, Crowder, and Solana. Jimmy's also here. Crowder and Solana back tomorrow. We should be being joined by Solana at some point today. It might be this segment. And Hoch will be back later this week. Jimmy and I are still plotting our vending machine rendezvous to get rid of all the Coke Zeros before Hoch is back in the studio. We'll have George Richards coming on in the next segment to talk some Panthers hockey. But first, I want to get to the Miami Hurricanes. Hurricanes have 2 games left, both on the road. At Virginia Tech on Saturday, it's a noon kick, and then at Pittsburgh to close out the season next week. And we are barreling towards a controversy in the college football playoff. Notre Dame and Miami could easily both finish at 10-2. The College Football Playoff Committee has signaled that they view Notre Dame in higher regard than they do Miami. And I think Notre Dame is playoff quality and worthy. Their 2 losses this season are against Miami by 3 and against Texas A&M by a point. They haven't played all that difficult of a schedule since. Best wins since are against number 20 USC and over the weekend at Pittsburgh, who was ranked. But, of course, Pat Narduzzi downplayed the idea that that means anything to Pittsburgh. So who knows the type of effort level that the Panthers brought. Here's an article from Dan Wolkin of Yahoo Sports. Team A is 10-2, didn't win a conference championship, and has played the 29th toughest schedule in the country, and owns 1 win over a team on the low end of the top 25. Team B is also 10-2, didn't win a conference championship, has played the 43rd toughest schedule in the country, and owns 1 win over a ranked team in the top 10. Based on the blind resume, you would probably assume Team B would be ranked slightly above Team A. You'd especially be convinced of that if you learn that when they played head-to-head, Team B defeated Team A. But of course, in this case, you'd be wrong, because Team A in this scenario is Notre Dame and Team B is Miami. And when the CFP rankings come out later tonight, it is all but guaranteed that Notre Dame will be ranked above Miami. But Notre Dame will be far enough ahead that Miami really has no plausible path to leapfrog them. And Dan Wolkin says that the committee is setting itself up for the biggest controversy and arguably injustice in the history of the playoff. Now, I know we are the flagship home of the Miami Hurricanes, and I know that Florida State got hosed out of the college football playoff a couple of seasons ago. And while I disagreed with it, at least I saw the rationale behind Florida State sans Jordan Travis not being the same team. But is there ever a bigger indication that the playoff committee does not value head-to-head than this scenario that we could see play out? Now, Miami can end up making this all moot by losing one of these last 2 games. 2 difficult places to play, both going to be cold. Pitt's ruined a Miami season before, back in 2017 when they last won 10 games and had a chance to go to the college football playoff. I don't think that you would have necessarily an argument from others that as currently constructed and as currently as they're playing, Notre Dame is better than Miami. But it doesn't matter what I may think or what you may think about the current state of the 2 programs. The fact of the matter is, Miami beat Notre Dame. What other metric can you use to determine who should get in, with all things being equal, than the 2 teams playing against each other? Miami won the game. They played. They settled it. And so if these 2 teams are both 10-2 at the end of the regular season and Miami is left out, well, Notre Dame gets in. What is even the point? What is even the point of playing a regular season? I don't know the rationale for it. Miami has not looked the same. Their 2 losses to Louisville and to SMU, bad losses. However, people like to act like the ACC is some downtrodden conference with no good teams in it outside of Miami. And even then, people might argue that. Georgia Tech's obviously been great this year. Louisville's a good team. SMU's a good team. Those were 2 close losses. They're not as impressive losses, quote unquote, as Notre Dame's losses to Miami on the road and A&M by 1 at home. But again, the 2 teams played. They decided it. It was in August, of course, but we saw it with our own eyes. The Miami Hurricanes defeat Notre Dame. Solana has now joined the program. Solana's in Tampa because Uruguay is taking on the United States in a friendly at Raymond James Stadium. Solana kind enough to join us now from his hotel in Tampa. How was the drive today?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, Appel. It was all right. It was about 4 hours, very little traffic. I'll tell you, man, walking into the hotel, I see Alexi Lalas, I see the whole Fox broadcasting crew, and I let them know, hey, you guys better not botch any Uruguayan player's name tonight. All right, I'm sick of it. I'm done with listening to you pronounce everybody's name incorrectly. All right, so get it right, Alexi.
That's my good friend Rob Stone, former colleagues for one night back in 2021. One of the highlights of my career, honestly, was having Rob Stone tossed to a broadcast that I was doing, some college basketball game back in March of 2021. No chance he remembers, but my good friend and former colleague Rob Stone, you should have said hello.
You guys,
like I always do with Crowder. I love to name drop Crowder. Solana always makes fun of me because Solana's been working with Crowder for almost a decade now and has never once name dropped Crowder. But I will name drop him to anybody who will listen.
Not that I would never name drop Crowder. I mean, I'll name drop when I need to name drop, but you'll name drop just like incessantly. You name drop for no reason. I mean, Mike White texted in. How many times has Appel brought up his good friend Mike White on the show today? Like, you just name drop for no reason. Like, even when it's not going to get you somewhere, I'll name drop when it's going to get me something, right? Like, I'm at Tootsie's, name dropping the fact that I'm Solana and I know Channing Crowder might get me in a better situation. Walking into Walmart with Appel, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my good friend Mike White once used his shopping cart."
The best example of this, I was playing in a golf tournament, and the Pouncey twins were on one of the holes just promoting the liquor that they were selling, their liquor brand. And I walk up to them, I try I forget what kind of liquor it was, take a shot of it. I go, "Oh, this is really good. Hey, by the way, Channing Crowder,
Do you see this?
If you're not watching on the screen,
what are you doing? We're live on video.
If you're not watching the stream on YouTube right now,
put your shirt on.
Solana's dad just walked in the background, shirtless. They got he had shorts on.
Oh my god, man! This whole drive, like I'm driving to Tampa with my dad, his friend, and the whole way they're talking about this game. They don't know the names of the players. Like the whole thing is just it's Appel, I got to tell you though, and Hoch has brought this up on the show. His son goes to the University of Tampa, so we have a big fan of the show. His name is Victor, who has been very kind to Hoch over the past couple months. When Hoch comes out to visit his son had surgery a couple months ago. He set him up in a hotel near the University of Tampa, and Victor, who happens to work at this hotel, has gone the extra mile to accommodate.
Did you get the Mervis suite?
And he hooked Hoch up with the Mervis suite in the past, and I didn't get the Mervis suite, but I got the next best thing, which is the Pickleball Champions suite. And outside my room today, as we checked into this hotel, courtesy of our friend Victor, I mean, it's hard to see, but outside I had a little flyer, the Pickleball Champions suite. And then it gets even better when I walk in. There's, like a little mystery basket waiting for me. And inside that basket is an enema. So thank you, Victor. I've got everything I need. I've got my suite, I've got an enema, and I've got cheese. So everything I could possibly need.
And you got shirtless while walking in the back.
Yeah, I'm not escaping the weirdo accusations anytime soon, based on the past 15 minutes of this program.
By the way, congratulations. That is a massive win for you. Truly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Hoch and Crowder downplayed my my athletic abilities for years on the show, and granted, tearing my ACL and then requiring 2 separate surgeries didn't exactly help my case, but I'm glad to be back on top, baby. Back on top.
That is just a massive win by you. And man, I wanted to talk some Dolphins with you for a second because I didn't get to talk about this with you guys yesterday. Today is the normal day that I would come on with you, and I'm sure I would have been asked in general about, should we be enjoying these wins? Should the Dolphins be more focused on tanking? And I know Barry Jackson had some interesting comments. I was talking about it earlier, and I could really go either way. For me, it's a win-win. If they win, great. I'm going to enjoy it, and it's cool because they suck for the first 8 weeks, and they're climbing themselves back in the hunt, into the graphic. But at the same time, if they lose, great. It improves their draft position. What I struggle with here from Barry Jackson is the idea that because the Dolphins have failed at rebuilds in the past, that all of a sudden we should just accept the mediocrity that they've been mired in forever and not try it again. I don't understand that logic, because when it came, and this is a different example, but when it came to going for it on 4th down, the Dolphins had already been stopped on 4th and 1 at the goal line earlier in the game. But you can't base that decision on something that happened in the past. I think that same thing applies here. Just because it hasn't worked out with different regimes doesn't mean this next one was. And the example I used was I would imagine Detroit Lions fans before Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were feeling the same way. Would this ever get better? Buffalo Bills, they were terrible for a long time until Brandon Beane showed up along with Sean McDermott and they developed Josh Allen. I understand the quarterback's a big part of this equation, but to just accept mediocrity because previous folks in this organization failed miserably at their jobs, I don't buy that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get one thing out of the way, though, Appel. I do think it's gotten to the point, and I don't necessarily blame fans for feeling this way because, again, it's been a long time since this team was truly successful. It's been a really long time. Yeah. It's unacceptable. So I don't blame fans necessarily, but I do think it's gotten to the point where there are parts of the fan base that are actively rooting against Tua Tagovailoa and are actively rooting against Mike McDaniel. Like, they're just sick of those guys. They're sick of what has led us to this point. And again, I'm not there. I'm not actively rooting against Tua. I don't think Tua's a bad guy. I'm not actively rooting against Mike McDaniel. I know he's not a bad guy, but I do think it's a results-based business. I don't want them back here next year, right? Like, I'm not rooting against them, but I don't want their services any longer than, this season. And with that being said, I'm still a Dolphins fan. If they're winning games in a season that's been miserable and it's part of this 25, now 26-year run that's been miserable, which is my entire fandom, I'm going to celebrate a win. Like, I just am, because unless you told me, hey, Andrew Luck is coming out of the draft this year, right? Like, unless you told me, hey, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, like, there's been a couple surefire. I don't even think Peyton Manning went overall, but there's a surefire number 1 overall pick. And even then, I thought Cam Ward was that guy last year. And look how tough it's been in Tennessee. Now, I think he can turn things.
That's a disaster around him.
Right. And look, I'm not saying he can't be a great quarterback in this league. I'm just saying it doesn't prove that quick turnaround. I don't think there's anybody in the draft right now that you say, hey, you have
Sure
you
thing.
have to lose games. You have to lose games. So to me, it's more about rehauling this entire roster. It's more about bringing in a new type of system and a different perspective to how to win and how to manage a roster and an organization. And that's not going to happen from one year to the next, no matter who's here and who's not here next season. So to me, the Dolphins should try to win games. And I'm happy when they win games. I'm enjoying when they win games, even as sloppy and as miserable as that game was Sunday morning, which it just wasn't fun. So, Appel, that's where I'm at. Like, Omar Kelly said something to us on the pregame show where he said, hey, like, losing is a culture. And it sounds cliche, and I know culture gets thrown around a lot, and clearly,
you're a big culture guy.
Right, being a Heat homer, I realize why you might just scoff at the notion of using the word culture, but he's not wrong in the sense that if you're just trying to lose games, and this organization, this locker room is already seen as kind of like a losing one, then you're perpetuating that. But if you can try to win games, you can try to build some momentum moving forward. I think guys feed off that. They feed off that mentality. And if you want to change the way you're viewed around the NFL, go win some football games. And right now, it's the part of the schedule where the Dolphins can accomplish that.
I think there's a bit too much talent on this team, even though we talk about how there isn't. They're too good to lose to teams like the Saints and teams like the Jets. Now, I know this is the NFL and anything can happen, but on paper, this team should be 6-7 heading into that Pittsburgh Monday night game. Let's get to headlines here really quick because we got George Richards coming up in the next segment. The headlines are sponsored by Doral Hyundai, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Hyundai at DoralHyundai.com. Panthers won 8-5 last night over the Canucks. We'll talk more about that with George Richards in the next segment. I want to talk to you real quick about the Heat game last night. 2-1 now this season against the Knicks. A dramatic 115-113 win last night. Every time I say the score, it sounds like I'm saying the same number twice. The Heat held off a late run by the Knicks. They almost blew it late, but 7 players in double figures. Fontecchio 4 of 7 from 3. Ware a double-double. Stormin Norman pushing 20 points again. And the Heat have been great at home this year. It's a really good win for Miami. They've got, obviously, Bam and Tyler Hero still out. The Knicks are without OG and Jalen Brunson, of course, but still, anytime you can beat the Knicks, that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, Landry Shamet torched you the other night in the Garden, and Karl Anthony Towns had a tremendous first half, and the Heat couldn't rebound to save their lives in that game Friday night. And, you were looking for guys like Kel'el Ware to be the difference in that game, and you just didn't feel it. So coming into last night, you get that report, not even report, like Udonis Haslem reveals he texted Kel'el Ware Friday night after the game on Amazon Prime, and, Kel'el took his words to heart. And then you're coming into this game, you're saying, well, let's see, right? Let's see how he responds to a Udonis Haslem text message, a challenge from the forever captain by Miami.
Wait, we wasted a roster spot on Udonis Haslem for so many years on the bench when he could have just sent a text every now and again.
It is a good point, right? It is a good point. Apparently, Udonis Haslem could have accomplished everything with a phone. But, Appel, Kel'el Ware probably had his best game in a Miami Heat jersey yesterday. He's flexing. When's the last time, for those who watch the Heat religiously, you saw Kel'el Ware flex after a big dunk, after a big rebound?
Doing himself.
He is. He was last night. And I thought the Heat, really competed. It was more a familiar territory for a Heat Knicks game where down the stretch, it's just a battle. And it's funny, Davion Mitchell comes up with the final rebound. So, look, the Heat have their rebounding issues, but when things are clicking with Kel'el, he's playing with a high motor, he's aggressive. The dude is unbelievable. Truthfully, when he's able to put all of his talents and use them properly, 7 foot, his wingspan is insane. It's special. And if you would have told me at the start of the season, Bam's going to miss 6 games and Tyler's not going to play for the first 3-4 weeks of the season, and the Heat would be 8-6 considering their record, considering their schedule, I'd say, yeah, that's a pretty good place to be. And on top of that, Norman Powell just continues to defy reasonable expectations, man. So
he's a whale.
Well, I mean, yeah, but maybe we don't want him to be like we want him to be
right, you want to be the second option and not the guy.
Well, no, I mean you want him to be the beluga whale, not so much
Right.
like the sperm whale or the blue whale or the killer whale, because the killer whales and the blue whales and the sperm whales, the biggest of the whales, Appel, those have to be very well compensated.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about extensions in the max area. And I don't know, like, are you willing to give Norman Powell the max extension? I don't know. I mean, he's playing like it right now, but will that put you in a good position in a couple of years? Is that good enough to go compete? I don't know. So, that's a question that the Heat are going to have to figure out down the line. But right now, that dude's balling. And Jaime played well. Like, it was a good game last night, a really fun game.
Last thing on the Heat before we get to weather and then to George Richards. How concerning to you are the rebounding issues? They're getting destroyed on the offensive glass.
Yeah.
Is that fixable?
Well, I mean, you have Bam Adebayo who's not in, but even before Bam got hurt, this team wasn't rebounding well. About part of, I think one of the negatives to how the Heat play is that they're susceptible to getting out rebounded, right? They're constantly trying to run up the floor, and a lot of times, they're getting into the painted area and on the offensive end, and they're taking these difficult shots. But part of the spacing, Bam, Kalel, whoever the bigs aren't around the rim at the time because you want that painted area to be open so that Davion, Jaime, Norm, they can take their defender one-on-one. You saw that yesterday, and it worked to a T. Davion Mitchell literally took over the fourth quarter by just taking Jordan Clarkson off the dribble, one-on-one, isolation. And it's worked. That's part of the Heat offense. They're not setting as many screens. But again, part of that is they're not getting as many offensive rebounds. But on the defensive end, they're giving up way too many. They were second to last in defensive rebounding percentage entering last night's game. They're the worst rebounding team or second worst team in the NBA. Again, part of it is Bam Adebayo's not in there. But overall, this team, they call it gang rebounding. And yeah, that's hard when you're playing with that pace to where now not only are you running up and down the floor constantly, you've got to bang down low, whoever you are. They're not going to be a great rebounding team this year. They're just not. But they have to be better than bottom 5 in percentile in every single rebounding statistic if they want to be a legit team in the Eastern Conference. Because when Tyler and Bam come back, I genuinely expect this team. Maybe it's me being a Heat homer, and that's fine. Call me a Heat homer.
You? No.
But I genuinely believe this team is going to take a step forward, especially offensively. I think Tyler is going to mesh really well with what they're doing right now. Defensively is where I think they might be a bit behind where they want to be because Norm and Tyler on the floor together. To me, that's problematic from a defensive perspective. They've got to figure out how to rebound the basketball better.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that adding an all-star like Tyler Hero is going to hurt this team whenever he does return. Solana, enjoy Uruguay and the United States. Even though it's a friendly, it's unfriendly. Hopefully the United States is able to take home the win in Tampa. I'm sure there'll be a ton of Uruguay fans who made the trip like yourself, and I'm glad your father ended up putting on some clothes.
Yeah, that was weird.
We've had some interesting moments on this stream today. Let me tell you.
Yeah. So what happened? What happened with Crowder? He says his laptop doesn't work in Vegas. Apparently, technology doesn't work in Vegas now.
Yeah, that or his headphones or something. That we were playing McDaniel sound, and then you just hear Crowder in the background go, "Hey!" I was like, Crowder wasn't at the press conference, and then what an interview! I mean, something might have happened there in the middle of that one. The chat picked up on, and now, of course, your father shirtless in the background. Again, thankfully, he was wearing shorts there. Your weather, great headlines, maybe the best headlines ever. Your weather, sponsored by Chill Zone AC, featuring reliable root AC systems. Make your AC great again. Visit chillzoneac.com. Partly cloudy. It is a beautiful night out. Temperatures in the high 70s, low 80s in South Florida. Solana, enjoy the match. Unless you're staying for a little longer. I don't know if you are.
No, I'm going to head out. Yeah, we're going to head to the stadium. One final thing. I know you're up against it, Appel, and I apologize, but Jimmy, that V is very low, man. That's a deep V, the jersey you're wearing there.
Feeling himself.
You got the hamburger meat coming out. Okay, Jimmy, I see you. Are you going to Tootsie's later?
Maybe.
Looking for some V? All right. Later, guys.
Bye, Solana. George Richards, Florida Hockey Now, talks some Panther hockey next on 104.3 FM WQAM.
This is Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
You ever just sit in your house naked?
We heard this song 8 times last night at Amerant Bank Arena in the Panthers' 8-5 win over the Canucks. As we welcome you back to the Hochman and Crowder and Solana show right here on 104.3 FM WQAM, Miami sports leader, also the home of the Florida Panthers. George Richards of FloridaHockeyNow.com joins us on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Shop over 2,000 Toyotas on sale at one location, Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan, ToyotaofHollywood.com. Georgie, hello, how you doing?
Hey, Josh, what's going on, bud?
Oh, not much. A big win for the Cats last night. 16 different players got on the score sheet, 8 goals. I feel like it might be time to start bringing back the we want 10 chance.
Sure.
Because aside from that Lightning game on Saturday, this Panther offense, which has created a ton of chances, seems like they're finally starting to cash in on those.
Yeah, the Panthers have obviously, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Panthers were at the very bottom of the NHL in goals scored, but when you looked at the underlying statistics, they were one of the top teams in the entire league for expected goals for the team, and eventually that tide's going to turn, and it certainly did last night against Vancouver, with Florida getting 7 goals with a goalie in net and then the empty net by Brad Marchand. But you listen, they weren't very happy with what happened Saturday night against Tampa Bay. That was 2 points, I think, that Florida let slip away. Tampa Bay, just with a makeshift lineup, comes in here and gets a win. The Panthers were pretty angry Saturday night that they let one slip away. That was not a team they should have lost to. And then they made up for it on Monday against the Canucks.
Can you contextualize what Brad Marchand is doing so far this season? He's 37 years old. He's on an 11-game point streak, 13 goals to lead the team, tied for second in the NHL, leads the team in points. Hard to imagine where this team would be right now without him.
Yeah, without Marchand and Sam Reinhart, right? I mean, Florida, that's Florida's offense for the most part. I mean, listen, with Brad Marchand, we talked about it last year, those final 20 games when he finally got into the lineup, when he finally played. I think he had 1 assist, 2 assists, something like that.
That's a lot of a bad trade.
Yeah, and there were some fans saying that he was a plant by the Boston Bruins to kind of tank things, right? And then they put him with Anton Lundell and Eetu Luostarinen, and boom. And it hasn't stopped. It just hasn't stopped. Eetu Luostarinen and Anton Lundell with Brad Marchand has been one of the top lines in the NHL ever since they put them together for Game 1 against Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning, Toronto, Carolina, Edmonton had no answer for that line last year in the playoffs, and it's continued. Now, Luostarinen didn't play last night, but they've just been terrific together.
We talk about Reinhart and Marchand essentially being the majority of the Panthers' offensive production. And I know Sam Bennett scored last night, had a couple of points, but how do you explain his slow start to the season? Is it because he doesn't have Tkachuk on his wing? I'm sure that's part of it.
Could be.
Is it because there are matchups that he's getting now that are less favorable to him because Barkov's out of the lineup? How do you explain Sam Bennett's slow start?
Can't explain it. Spoke to him about it. I mean, it has picked up, right, a little bit lately. He's got a couple goals. He's been getting some assists. I think he went a run where he had 8 games with 1 point earlier last month. So he's been able to pick it up. Carter Verhaeghe, just again, same thing as we saw with him last year, always in the right spot. The shot's just not going in right now. It's kind of like that shot by Mackie Samoskevich last night. I mean, that 99 times out of 100, that's a goal. That was an unbelievable play.
He somehow managed to get bumped up to the top line last night. Was one of like 3 players in the lineup who didn't get a point.
Right. Sergei Bobrovsky outscored a couple of those guys. So, I don't know. I don't know how to explain. It's just one of those weird things. It's like, how do you explain what Brad Marchand's doing? I don't know. I can't, because we did not expect this from him. We did not expect this from Sam Bennett nor Carter Verhaeghe. But it's a long season, man. We're only 19 games into this thing. Talking to Paul Maurice about Sam Bennett, he's like, listen, he had some rough stretches last year, and look at how it ended. He was the MVP of the entire postseason. So, They're not sweating it. They're not, they're not worrying about it. He'll get her going.
Yeah, and it seems like as a team, as we mentioned earlier in the interview, as a whole, it seems like it's starting to get going. And hopefully last night is something that sparks Sam Bennett moving forward. Outside of the slow starts for guys like Bennett and Verhage, is there anything that concerns you with this team right now? They've got a similar record at this point in the season that they had the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like last night was such a weird game because they gave up 5 goals on 10 shots, or excuse me, 5 goals on 15 shots. I think the Canucks had close to 50 shot attempts, something along those lines, and only 15 made it on goal. So they're not giving up a ton, but it seems like the shots they do give up are high quality. Is that the most concerning thing? Do you have other areas here where you're looking at like this is a problem?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly there were a couple breakaways and thing of that sort, but that was more of a problem last year, right? We talked last year all the breakaways that Florida was giving away. They're giving up a lot fewer of those. Now, listen, those were some great plays. Quinn Hughes got things going for the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, seriously, those were great. Those were 5 great goals by the Vancouver Canucks. There weren't any cheapies in there except for maybe the one where Bob jumped on it and the puck slipped past him. And that happens. It's a puck on a frozen sheet of ice. I mean, it happens. So those were great goals by Vancouver. And this is a team that's been doing this all year. Vancouver's problem is their defense. It's not their offensive game. They scored 6 against Tampa Bay on Sunday night. So Vancouver knows how to score. Sergei Bobrovsky knows how to stop the puck. Last night was just one of those nights where it kind of got away. And Florida was able to be resilient. Down 2-0 like that. They gave up, 2 goals in 12 seconds or something. And boom, they're right back in that game. So they were able to come back. They were able to do the right things. One of the things that concerns me, yes, the records are the same, and we can look at the standings and all that good stuff. The injuries are really starting to pile up. Guys, they're just running out of bodies. Cole Schwint last night, collides with Sergei Bobrovsky. It could be a shoulder. It could be a collarbone. I think it's a shoulder, but I'm not a doctor. He's not going to be playing for a while. So Florida's now down. This will be their fourth line center that they're bringing up. They're just running out of bodies, and none of these guys, like Paul Maurice said last night, are coming back anytime soon.
It was an interesting night of history for Sergei Bobrovsky on a night where his save percentage was lower than 70%. He picks up another win, moving it past Jacques Plante for 9th most all time. I'm not saying that there's like a worry with him because you know what you're going to get out of Bob, but it is so interesting to me that they're winning in spite of him having a sub 900 save percentage right now. But he's a guy that everybody believes will get it figured out. There was zero worry or concern with Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah, I didn't even know that he was sub 900. I don't think Paul Maurice looks at the number. Well, I know he doesn't care.
Right.
I don't think anybody looks at the numbers. I mean, honestly, you're giving me numbers that I really don't even know because we don't even look at them. It's just like, okay, well, whatever. It's, it's no. These aren't the old days, man. Where we poured all this. It's like, whatever. I mean, I don't think they care what Sergei Bobrovsky's numbers are. He's getting the wins. He gave up 2 goals to the Tampa Bay Lightning. That game is not on him.
Right.
Right. I mean, so games like last night happened. It was a Monday night in November. Might be the smallest crowd the Florida Panthers play in front of at home all season. Okay, great. Whatever. These guys look at the schedule. These guys look at the calendar. They know they've got months ahead of them. Sergei's getting into his zone, man. He's got a routine. He's working his way through it. I have no concern. I know he doesn't. I talked to him last night in the locker room, just me and him, just talking. And we were talking about legacy and being on this list. And he's like, man, there's so much ahead of me here with the Panthers. We're good, and that's the way he treats this. He's just happy to be there every day, happy to go to work, whether it's practice or a game. Sergei Bobrovsky just wants to be on that ice and try and get a little bit better every day. And that's what the Panthers are looking for. They're building towards that. They're not really worried about a rando game in November.
Well, you talk about them knowing what's coming ahead. We heard from Paul Maurice, I think it was last week, that Matthew Tkachuk would be slowly returning to practice, skating around a little bit. What is the realistic timeline for him? And do you envision him playing in the Winter Classic on January 2nd?
I do not. No. No. January 2nd, I think, is a little bit too quick. But I think the timeline for Matthew Tkachuk is what it has always been. We always thought it was going to be a couple weeks into January. Now, a couple weeks into January versus January 2nd doesn't sound like that much, but he had a lot of work done, and and he put off the surgery until late August, early September, whatever it was, so he could enjoy his off season. They knew what the timeline was going to be to ramp up towards January and get into the Olympic flow in February. I would be surprised if he's on the ice for the Winter Classic, but, I've been surprised before. We'll see how it goes. But, with a surgically sports hernia and the groin thing, we'll just have to wait. And the doctors are not going to clear him unless he's ready, because there's too much at stake for him just to play in this outdoor game. They are not going to play him unless he's 100%.
We talk about all the injuries with this team. Kulikov's out, Schwintz now out, Tkachuk obviously, Barkov obviously, Nosic's out. You mentioned they're running out of bodies. I'm sure they like some of their depth that's in Charlotte right now, but
sure,
Bill Zito is an aggressive general manager. We have seen that time and time again. Do you envision this being the group that they continue rolling with until the injured guys return? Or if they're still kind of treading water like this, do you see him maybe going after a guy like Ryan O'Reilly in Nashville, or one of the other guys that they're trying to get rid of, or maybe some help on that third pair? It seemed like they found maybe a diamond in the rough in Sabrango, but he's had a couple of tough games. Uvis Polinskis back. How do you kind of envision Bill Zito navigating what's ahead?
I think they stand. I think they try and add to what they've got right now. Like, if you say stand pat, I don't know where they're going to be able to make moves. You've got Tkachuk possibly coming back in a month or 6 weeks. That money's got to be back on the books. You don't have any money under the salary cap to make any kind of moves unless you're moving one of your big players. So listen, Bill Zito and the Panthers worked magic on July 1. It's harder to do it during the regular season unless somebody else big gets hurt. Guys like Cole Schwint and his $750,000 contract are not going to do it. You could get another $750,000 guy, but that's about it. So they're scouring the waiver wire and all that kind of stuff. O'Reilly, the whole thing in Nashville. Nashville is going to be a seller, but is Nashville a seller right now? I don't know. So I think as we get closer to the trade deadline, you're going to see some more action. But as far as that goes, I think they're just going to play with what they got.
George, I love the throwback Miami baseball memorabilia in the background, but the Tampa Bay hat, what are we doing there?
Oh, I don't know. I just put it on today.
Bad hair day for you?
It's always a bad day. Yeah, it's always
same.
a bad hair day, brother.
Hey, you and I the same. I know I've asked you about this before, but on the way out, George Richards, FloridaHockeyNow.com. The McRib, have you partaken since its return?
I've never had the McRib.
Yeah, I am jealous of you. You don't have to try it. It's terrible.
Well, yeah, we do. Okay, real quick. I had the McRib when I was like in elementary school in Miami. They used to give us that little McRib, that rib patty thing, and that's what it is. I mean, no, I'm good. I might have had a bite of somebody's. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need that.
Why have a McRib when you can drive down the street and head over to Flanagan's for some?
How much is a McRib combo deal? $10?
Way too expensive for how horrible.
$12?
I don't know.
Meal deal, baby. Meal deal. $20.
Joe's meal deal. I thought you were talking about the McRib from.
No. For an extra $7-8, man. You get the drink, the salad, the rolls, half rack, a baked potato if you'd like.
It's enough of the McRib. Let's be honest.
Enough of the McRib.
George Richards, FloridaHockeyNow.com, joining us here on Hoch and Crowder and Solana. Thanks as always for your time. Read his coverage again, FloridaHockeyNow.com. George, thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Good seeing you, brother.
Always a pleasure. 5 o'clock Funky Buddha Happy Hour is next on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Back after this.
You're listening to the Hoch, Crowder, and Solana Show.
The Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions.
5 o'clock Funky Buddha Happy Hour, brought to you by our friends at Funky Buddha Brewery. Good vibes on tap. Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Appel in for the guys today. Thanks to Solana for hopping on earlier this hour. Thanks to Oronde Gadsden, and thanks to George Richards for coming on in the last segment. Mike Cunio will join us later on here in the 5 o'clock hour, talk about his trip to Spain and the Dolphins and what they have coming up. Crowder and Solana will both be on the show tomorrow. I'll still be in for Hoch, and then Hoch will be back here on Friday. Hopefully by then, all of the Coke Zero is gone and purchased or drank out of the vending machines, so Hoch has to deal with that again. Jimmy, are you in on this with me?
Let's do it.
Now, I know it might get a little expensive. I think there are at least like 12 or 13 Coke Zeros in the vending machine, but I think we have to do this.
Let's try to do it.
Okay, we'll do it after the show. All right, so
Hoch, I hope you're not listening.
He's not listening to this. Are you kidding me? I would have gotten 17 texts from him after Solana's dad walked through the stream shirtless in the first segment of the 4 o'clock hour if he were listening. I did send him the clip, though, so we might get a comment from him before the end of the show. But we had talked about this a little bit with Oronde Gadsden in the 3 o'clock hour. And I want to talk more about this Shedeur Sanders situation, because I find a couple of aspects of this to be bizarre and honestly a little unfair to him. Now, I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be very good in the NFL. I may be very wrong on that. Lord knows I have been wrong about a billion different things that I've said on this show. And I'll be wrong about a billion more things moving forward. But I just don't see it with Shedeur Sanders. But the excuse making that I'm seeing about Shedeur from Sunday and his first NFL regular season action is so beyond bizarre to me. It's so detached from reality. Solana was just making fun of me for name dropping Mike White all the time. But I'm going to do it here. Because if you were to read Josina Anderson's tweets, if you were to listen to Cam Newton pontificate about this, and I'm sure there are others as well, the idea that the Cleveland Browns are out to get Shedeur Sanders and are purposely sabotaging him because he hadn't gotten any first-team reps until he got in the game, that's nonsense. I was talking to Mike White about this. Mike White's been a backup in the NFL now for 8 seasons. He's with the Carolina Panthers now. Backed up Tua Tagovailoa, of course, in 2023. Had a great run with the Jets before he got hurt in 2022 and in 2021. And now he's with the Panthers after spending last season with the Bills. His first action in an NFL game was against the New England Patriots in New England in 2021. He was first going through his cadence with the center, with the offensive line, in the huddle going into that game. It is not this new phenomenon where backup quarterbacks and third-string quarterbacks don't get first-team reps for a long period of time. You know what Mike White went in that game and did? Let a touchdown drive the first possession. Now, the Jets got blown out in that game. But this idea that Shedeur Sanders is the first backup quarterback ever to come into a game with limited reps in general, not just with the first team guys, and have to make something out of it? Please. Baker Mayfield was cut by the Panthers on 2 days' notice. Flew to LA, started a game for the Rams, and won an important game for the Rams. An entirely new organization with literally 0 reps, just learned the playbook, and went out there and won a game. Now, you can criticize how the Cleveland Browns, in general, constructed their quarterback room this year. No doubt about it. Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Bailey Zappi. That's 5 quarterbacks. Bailey Zappi's on their practice squad. Shedeur was the 4th string, drafted in the 5th round. Dylan Gabriel drafted in the 3rd round. They signed Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco basically to compete for the starting job. Where are the first-team reps there for Shedeur Sanders? What 5th-round pick in general is getting first-round reps or first-team reps in training camp during the season? Point to that person for me. Maybe there's an exception or two, but on the whole, that just doesn't exist. And so this excuse-making that he gets in, and Josina Anderson's out here, hashtag non-debut. I got to pull up this tweet from Josina Anderson because it has to be a bit. I'm convinced it's a bit. Against all odds, this 3rd and 10 throw from Shedeur Sanders. It was a 3-yard crossing route that Jerry Jeudy in the open field had to make 2 defenders miss to get the first down. Against all odds, 3rd and 10. The game was moving way too fast for Shedeur Sanders. He couldn't point out protections. I'm not confident he's got a great arm. And he's terrible in the pocket. Drifting back and spinning out of the pocket. That works in the Big 12 at Colorado. That doesn't work in the NFL. And I hope that finally when he gets his first-team reps, that for his sake, he does play better on Sunday coming up. I don't want to see him fail. I don't think anybody does, unless you're a cynic. But what have you seen in the preseason and on Sunday that leads you to believe that this player is going to be good? I don't understand. And so you have the pundits like Josina Anderson and Cam Newton defending Shedeur and trashing the Browns organization, which, by the way, I think you can criticize Shedeur and the Browns for how they handled their quarterback situation coming into this season. But this is from Luke McCown, the brother of Josh McCown. Luke was a 4th-round pick and a journeyman backup in the NFL. And he put this on Twitter yesterday. He said, quote, I think there's a massive misunderstanding about how an NFL practice is structured. The only time mid-round pick rookies and backups get meaningful reps is in training camp, and they are never with the ones unless you are competing or starting that next preseason game. Now, I will say that Kevin Stefanski did say it was going to be an open competition. But let's be honest. How many times have you actually heard a coach say that, and it turns out to actually just be a competition between the first 2 guys? No team ever has had a 4-way starting QB competition in the NFL. Never. Back to Luke McCown. Regular season practices have 10 to 12 plays per period. That's team run, team pass, team blitz pickup, and some teams still do a 7-on-7. But for the most part, there are 30 to 40 live full-speed reps of the actual game plan practiced on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in the NFL. These team periods alternate between O and D with backups and practice squad players, and even some guys that'll play significant roles on Sundays, serving as scout team looks for squads for those periods. And this is where the backups get their reps. We have to try and translate what the scout team plays into your offense and play it accordingly. Honestly, this is a lot of times more beneficial to you as a quarterback because you're getting reps against a full defensive starters at full speed. The minus being, of course, that it's not necessarily your offensive plays you're running. Folks don't understand. It's incredibly difficult, probably the hardest job in all of sports, to be a backup quarterback for this very reason, because of limited to no reps and same expectations. And that is you must come in and perform at the same level as the guy that you replaced for your teammates, coaches, and your own career security. You come in and struggle, and you're evaluated on that performance, right or wrong. The league makes its judgments about you, and that's why it's so hard for backups to have long careers that weren't at one point full-time starters. Nod to myself and buddies Chase Daniel and Dan Orlovsky. Yes, it stinks that the situation Shedeur Sanders came into, Luke McCown says he's been there, literally with the Browns as a rookie, as a mid-round pick. So have many other rookies. You play, you learn, and grow, and get better. or you don't. Reps help. Absolutely, he'll be better with a full week of prep. But those are the hands as backups were dealt in those moments, and we have to make the most of them. Shedeur Sanders will be better with reps for sure. We all are. The idea that this is something unique to Shedeur Sanders is lunacy. It's lunacy. I think we saw why he was a 5th-round pick and dropped so far based on what we saw on Sunday. That player is not ready. He's not. And the conversation around him, I think, sets him up for failure. Because people are unrealistic, and the over-the-top PR and propaganda, I'll call it, around Shedeur. It's mind-numbing. It's doing him a disservice. It's setting the expectations up unrealistically. And if he doesn't meet them, then he stinks. And he did stink on Sunday. But there are people who are supposedly defending him that are actually hurting him by resetting where the expectations should be. Somebody in the chat points out, Cam Newton doesn't know what he's talking about, but McCown does. Cam Newton's been a starter in the league for a long time. He was he's a number 1 overall pick, was he not? Luke McCown is literally talking from the same perspective that Shedeur Sanders entered the league in. Mid-round pick, backup with the Browns, Luke McCown. 5th-round pick, Shedeur Sanders with the Browns. I just gave you other examples. Brian Hoyer was out there saying the same thing about the limited reps a backup gets. I just told you about Mike White having to come into a game, literally saying his cadence for the first time with his offensive line. Part of me feels bad for Shedeur Sanders. And I'll tie it into the Dolphins with this. In reading some of these comments about Shedeur, and I said it earlier on the show, I truly wonder if that's what we sounded like, to a different degree, obviously, defending Tua Tagovailoa. Where anytime the Dolphins failed, it was never Tua's fault. And every time he succeeded, it was all Tua. When Shedeur fails, it's because he was set up by the Browns. Kevin Stefanski has it out for him. But when he delivers a strike over the middle, good throw to their tight end to move the sticks late in the game, that's all on Shedeur. That's the type of talent he has. When he throws a 3rd down and 10 crossing route that's caught 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, that's a against all odds throw by Shedeur Sanders. He made a great play on a ball in the end zone. Probably should have been caught. It wasn't. But he also airmailed one 10 feet over the guy's head in that same sequence. Unfair to him, the expectations have been set way too high. And what people think happens with a 5th-round pick at quarterback in these organizations, wildly misguided. And again, to the point about Cam Newton, there may be exceptions to this. But by and large, it is not rare that a quarterback doesn't get first-team reps at all when they are starting the season as a 3rd string. And then when the other rookie they draft, he's got to get the reps. Everyone he doesn't get is wasted. Again, 2 things can be true here. The Browns, in drafting 2 rookie quarterbacks in the 3rd and 5th round, entering the season, if you count Deshaun Watson, with 6 quarterbacks on the roster, terrible. But at the same time, there is no conspiracy here with Shedeur Sanders as far as Kevin Stefanski having it out for him or sabotaging Shedeur Sanders. All right. Enough about that. We got Mike Cunha joining us in the next segment. We've got to get to headlines here. Sponsored by Doral Hyundai, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Hyundai or DoralHyundai.com. Panthers winners last night, 8-5 over the Canucks. Nice bounce back for them. Sergei Bobrovsky moved past Jacques Plante for 9th all-time in most wins in NHL history. Seth Jones scored twice. Brad Marchand continues his incredible start of the season. 13 goals, 10 assists to lead the team. He's tied for second in the league in goals. He's got points in 11 straight. Big win for the Heat last night over the Knicks by 2, 115 to 113. They held off a late run by the Knicks, 7 players in double figures. Khalil Ware, a double-double. Heat are 6-1 at home. Other NBA news. According to Shams Charania, the Cleveland Cavaliers were fined $100,000 for sitting half of their roster in, ironically, the game they won against the Miami Heat. The report basically pointed to Mitchell and Mobley as the two guys who weren't in that were held out of that game. Cavs fined $100,000 for that. Your weather brought to you by Chill Zone AC, featuring reliable root AC systems. Make your AC great again. Visit chillzoneac.com. Sun going down, beautiful night in South Florida. That is your weather. Coming up next on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana, we'll be joined by Mike Cunio. Talk some Dolphins about that game in Madrid against the Commanders and their season moving forward right here on 104.3 FM WQAM, Miami's sports leader.
You're listening to the Hoch, Crowder, and Solana Show.
I spend $250,000 a year on gluten.